713, traffic-related deaths skyrocketed in Hawaii this year, particularly on Oʻahu. Proposed solutions have centered around enforcement or reminding us to do things like put our phones down, drive safer. But Civil Beat's Matthew Leonard says that it could be something else, perhaps our roads. Matthew joins us now this morning. Good morning, Matthew.
Morning, Steve. Good to see you.
So let's start with the significance of the problem and how poorly we're doing. How bad is it?
So I think my colleague Ben Angren and I tried to take a step back and sort of look at what we can understand about this terrible year on the roads, and it's been particularly intractable on Oʻahu. The neighbour islands have actually done a better job of reducing fatalities, but here, as we know, the numbers are exceeding what where we were at the same time last year. The other kind of context we put in the story is really about where we are nationally, and one of the disturbing things is that compared to the first 6 months of 2024, the first 6 months of 2025, we were like 48% higher than we were last year, and that is also a kind of a really significant benchmark nationally. We're much higher than the next highest state that saw increases, which was Kansas. And overall, nationwide, there is a trend towards declining traffic fatalities. So what does that mean for us? We're the second year where we're seeing a trend towards increasing fatalities on the road.
Yeah, and I think from the outside looking in, we think, okay, well, it's simple, right? Wear a helmet, wear your seatbelt, don't drive drunk, put the phone down. But there's another factor that you mentioned that I think a lot of people don't mention, the roads.
Right.
What did you find?
And it's the roads and more broadly infrastructure as well, which also includes things like what's the infrastructure for pedestrians. Pedestrian fatalities have also increased markedly. This has been something that's been happening nationwide, but we saw it here this year, particularly with an increase. And so, if there isn't a kind of a buffer for pedestrians, and in Hawaii, the infrastructure means that you're more likely to encounter a pedestrian because of the way our roads were constructed and the way that our geography works. So that's another piece that we kind of looked at to see what sort of a factor that might be playing.
One of the things Governor Green's executive order looked to fix was enforcement.
Right.
What could be fixed there? What are the problems that we're seeing right now?
Absolutely. And so enforcement is a really great, nationally we understand enforcement to be a really great short to medium term solution. But what we get into is the lag times that are associated with creating safer roads, safer pedestrian refuge, safer signage. That's all got to be a part of the kind of the bigger plan. And it's definitely in the thinking of state and state and county transportation officials. But the challenges are really immense, as we know. And a lot of our infrastructure was really built with the idea of just moving people quickly from one place to another without so much regard for the other kind of activity that can go on, including the proliferation of e-bikes, which you guys have reported on so well, which is a kind of a new technology that's presenting different challenges.
Yeah, and a lot of it is simple, right? The onus should be on us. What have you seen as far as behavioral drive with driving, impaired driving, and the like? Right.
So Hawaii, unfortunately, is setting a new precedent. But between 2014 and 2023, we saw an 11% increase in impaired driving. So we're also, that's something obviously that personal responsibility, all of those things come into play. But generally, the research shows that kind of public awareness campaigns aren't as effective as doing strong enforcement and then also creating safer environments for driving.
Yeah, a very interesting deep dive into something that might seem simple, but then you look at it, it's very, very, very well done. Thank you, Matthew.
Cool.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Steve.
You can check out the full article on civilbeat.org or text 66866 to get their newsletter.